LS59 of Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. Come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for an hour. And let's see, I don't know what else. There's no other and. I guess we're simulcasting this over at gunchannels.com. Gun Channels is a community we built. It's going on 6 years now, and it's a place for people that are interested in collaborating and having conversations about firearms, collaborating on projects, I should say, and having a conversation about firearms. With that being said, we got Gizzard Gary jumping in from Kansas. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for the invite.
You bet. Honda, where are you from?
Down good old Colorado way.
Oh, right on. Where at?
South of Denver.
Okay. I almost kind of know that area now because I've driven through it once. And then we got Cycle Camp jumping in from Connecticut. Thanks for joining.
Hey, we have power tonight.
Do you have no power yesterday?
Yeah, that's why I wasn't around. I didn't get there till after you'd already left, and somebody, we had the really high winds and stuff, 60, 65 mile an hour winds, and a tree came down and took out a set of wires, and about just a little under 200 of us in the neighborhood all went down.
Holy moly, 60 miles an hour wind, really?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of wind.
Yeah. Well, Congress is in session, so you got to expect that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like violent outbursts of hot air being blown all around.
Exactly.
Yeah, we got a bunch of people joining us on the text chats out there. Simulcasted over on Gun Channel, so we're watching the text chat over there. And it is episode 762. So we've been doing this show for like 762 episodes. No big deal. Most podcasts, no other podcasts are anywhere near this because they all do them like once a week and they act like that's a big deal. Oh, we come around once a week and do like an hour's worth of work. So anyway, we come in here pretty much every day for an hour and we talk about guns, keeping the conversations open, keeping the lines of communications existing so that when necessary we can use them for important stuff. And that's what we've been doing the last couple of days, actually. And tonight I figured we'd take a little break from that. Since we do have a lot of imminent things on the horizon that can be a little bit frustrating since there's really not a lot we can do about the process right now except watch it. There's, of course, consequences that are our responsibility to follow up on. And there was, we did what we could do to set the thing up for where we're at right now. But at the moment, we're watching the House vote on H.R. 8 and H.R. 1112. Which were combined into, I keep forgetting it now, H.R. 145, I think, which were both combined into that one. So that would be the, what are we talking? The H.R. 8 is the universal background check. So every firearms transfer, anytime you hand a firearm to someone else, the requirement would be to have to go through a background check and a cost and procedure of going to a licensed FFL in order to transfer property from one person to another, and then changing the procedure for that background check that would have to take place to go from 3 days to 10 days. So create much more additional burden and then extend that burden with no clear understanding of what they're suggesting, no clear definition of how that would solve anything that they claim that this is an effort to solve, and of course just frustrating to watch. So we've been watching that the last couple of days. We're going to not pay attention to that so much today unless it comes up because that is number one on the radar. But if people have questions about it, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, we can talk about the caliber 7.62, which is basically, 30 caliber. So it covers a lot of stuff. But the 7.62 metric millimeters part there tends to be your 30 caliber rifle stuff. But I think technically 7.62 is a lot of handgun stuff, huh? We should have Dead Horse or somebody in here. Dead Horse still on Gun Channels ever?
I don't know, but certainly the Tokarev is a 7.62 by 25, right?
Yeah, that's the only one I can think of.
Well, you got 7.62 by a bunch of things. You got 54R, is the big one, and then you got 39. But then there's others, like you said, the pistol. But isn't there something in between the two, like a different pistol one? 35.
Well, there's the 308, 7.6251.
Yeah, if you get into R's, right? So then 30-06 is 7.62 by 54. No, it's 50 something.
56, I believe. I could be wrong.
This is Dead Horse's time, busy time of the year, he said. So that's why he's 7.62 Nagant. Is that 25? No. 7.62 Nagant is which one?
Was that the revolver, the Nagant revolver?
Yeah. I don't know if it's like 19 or something.
The Nagant 1895.
Yeah, it's a short. Yeah, shorter.
Those rounds look weird. They've got the case that goes all the way up the length of the bullet, so the bullet doesn't stick out of the end of the case at all. Supposedly, you can silence those because they do create a gas seal.
Mm-hmm. They look like they're uncircumcised, so the brass case comes up around the projectile, and then that is how they get the forcing cone situation in Russia. Instead of doing a forcing cone, or in addition to the forcing cone, they made the brass case be part of that. What's the idea? So you get more pressure, I guess, or so you get less potential for the cutting, the fire exploding out from between the cylinder and the frame.
Right,
and,
you get no loss through the forcing cone.
Yeah,
and you can suppress it. It's the only gun that can be suppressed.
Well, the only revolver, right? And then yeah, exactly. But it also is neat because the way that system works, it jams the receiver or the cylinder forward, right? It has some kind of cam or something that smashes the cylinder forward as it shoots.
Yeah, it's got like these like Z cuts on the outside of the cylinder that every time it cycles, it moves forward and then backward. It's kind of cool. I remember when you could pick those up for like $150. What do they go for now? Like 400?
Yeah, 3.5 to 4.5, right in there.
Revolvers? I remember the revolvers being $50 because you couldn't buy ammo for them. Nobody wanted them, and they had that weirdly goofy firing pin, and they were kind of obnoxious and crude. So.
Oh no, they're big bucks now.
Yeah.
Another gun you should have bought 100 of back when they were $50. Huh?
Yeah, I thought about it, and I just didn't want the stuff laying around. And when it's just laying around after the Cold War, I don't know if that was unique or not. I imagine it was probably the same after the big wars, and well, after any war, really. I imagine whenever we stockpiled and they started to release it, you see all the stuff not selling, and it's a low price, and there's plenty of it. So there's nothing to signal, unless you're got investment in your mind. There's nothing to signal any scarcity or any need to pursue it or anything. So you're like, I got all the time in the world. I'll buy one of those next week, next show, next gun show, next year. And then before you know it, these things cost, $300-400 or 3 or 4 times what they started out.
That's a good question. What do you think is the next Mosin Nagant? Like the next gun that's going to come out in the surplus in large amounts into the market, flood the market, price driven down to the point where you can pick them up for dirt cheap. And then at some point later on, it'll normalize again, and then they'll become more expensive. What's the next gun to be the Mosin Nagant?
I don't think we'll ever see any guns like that again. Those guns were created either for the wars, the big wars, or for the Cold War. The build up to a war that never happened. We don't have campaigns like that anymore. We don't have countries that have that kind of budget. They don't even spend. They decrease their military spending, and when they do, it's on tanks and stuff. So I don't think as a strategy or a tactic, I don't think we stockpile small arms anymore as a country, and I don't think others do as much. So we're never going to see the quantities. From what I understand, you saw like Lord of War or one of those other movies about arms dealers. They had like giant armories in these countries for the big wars when they went and collected all the munitions, small arms after the big wars. There was giant armories of that stuff, and that's what we've been, I guess you could say, looting or dwindling as we purchase all that stuff, the recreational market in the United States and maybe some other countries, I suppose, but for the most part here, I suppose. And I don't think there's been a buildup. Am I wrong? I mean, there's no Uzis, there's no FALs, there's no HKs in those numbers. There might be ARs out there, but most of those get chopped. I don't really see too many AR parts kits anymore. I mean, there's AKs. That was the #1 biggest one. But did anything surpass the AK? I think the AK stopped that whole thing. I think that, or at least that was the last of the, whatever you want to call that, like potential big buys.
Whatever happened? Whatever happened to all the CNR 1911s that were coming back from, I think it was the Philippines or something, the post, like all of the World War II and World War I surplus 1911s we gave to somebody at some point. I forget who. And
Is that the Philippines or the ones from South Korea? Is that different ones, or are you talking about those?
No, I don't remember where they were sent to, but I do remember hearing recently, like within the last year or two, that, hey, we're supposed to be getting all these 1911s coming back into the country, and da-da-da, but I never really heard cheap.
Obama brought back a bunch of the 1911s through CMP, and from what I understood, those were, I don't remember what the numbers were, but let's say if there was 1,000, then it was going to be like 100 a year. If it was 10,000, it was going to be 1,000 a year. But it was something like they took the number that was going to return to the United States, and then they divided it by 10, and that's how many would go out each year. And I think they said that they were all in various conditions, and they'd sell them like they normally do at CMP, like, you know, at the various, I guess, priced appropriately to the condition that they're in.
I'd be interested in picking one of those up if they're reasonably priced, honestly. And I said CNR, I meant CNP, right?
I know what you mean, but I don't think those are anywhere near. I mean, I guess it's possible, but I can't imagine those are anywhere near the kind of quantities we're seeing with like Mosins, like you started, or even AKs and stuff. So we just didn't make that many 1911s, and I don't know, maybe we did.
Was that something they only gave to officers back then, or was that like a more common gun that was carried? I guess I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it was always been officers and jobs that either can't handle a rifle, they're too small, like in a small area, or they just don't need a rifle, or they're just not in danger of anything.
Well, I thought that's what the point of the M1 carbine was. Like, you give those to like the truck drivers and the rear echelon and the artillery dudes and all that shit. But then
that's different. That's somebody who's still fighting. I'm thinking 1911s are like paperwork people, or you know, somebody driving around in the back area of the war, not up front. But I don't know. I don't know what it was like in World War II. I can't even imagine. After 4 years of war, I mean, I imagine there was probably just 1911s laying around, you know, just around Europe, and you just pick one up and start carrying it. Who's going to tell you not to?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting looking at some of the like the rare production 1911s that they made. Like, they made a specific line of 1911s that was only to be given to generals.
Right. Well, I don't think you understand 7.62. So there's not a 7.62.
Oh, so yeah, you're right. We're getting on.
There is 308, the Thor's hammer, which was a 1911 lower that somebody put a 308 single barrel, single shot upper on. We did a video of shooting that thing a while back. So I guess there is a 7.62 1911.
How did that thing kick?
It wasn't that bad. It was like a 44 Magnum or something. It was really not that bad.
I guess out of that short barrel, you wouldn't really get the velocity.
Exactly.
Pretty big
pressure to build up.
Pretty big fireball, though, huh?
I don't know. We shot it during the day in the desert, but yeah, soon. It didn't extract, so we didn't shoot it very much.
Yeah, that sounds cool, though.
Pants is saying he still never shot his Nagant revolver, so he's got ammo for it. Whatever that maroon company is. What's the maroon company? Maroon boxes. Anyway, they make them. I know that they make them occasionally, at least once a year, I think.
Fiocchi makes them.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I thought their boxes were blue.
Well, maybe I think it's something else.
Yeah. And the Nagant is a 7.62 by 38 rimmed. So if you're looking for ammunition, that's what to look for. I bought it before for my 1895.
Looks like you can get it from PPU. You can get it from Cellar Bullet, Tula.
Classic.
Yeah, there's a few people that make it.
Classic Firearms has Russian surplus 7.62 by 38R. 1,092 round spam cam for $199.
Shit, that's shipping off.
Not bad. That's like less than 20 cents a round. That's actually pretty freaking cheap.
So Vanessa Kitty's saying, how was the CMP created? That's a issue.
The civilian marksmanship program.
Issue revolver. CMP was created in 1911 or 1903. I forget. Whichever one was the defense. There's a bunch of defense acts back in the day. In the 1903 or 1911, I think it's 1903, created the Guard. I think there was already. I remember. I think the Guard was first. The Guard existed, then the Army, and then the Reserves were created in 1903. So whenever the Defense Appropriation Act or whatever in 1903 created the Reserves and a bunch of other stuff, CMP got created. It's also when the Illinois Rifle Pistol Association got created. And then its goal was to teach kids how to shoot so they weren't a bunch of idiots. And then turned into bunch of old men getting cheap surplus guns off the government. So I don't know if it was I think actually, yes, I think it was the Congressional Act, the Defense Act put into place something that said something like, y'all got to start learning how to shoot. Or at least the government should start allowing people to learn how to shoot or something like that.
It was the 1903 War Department Appropriations Act.
Yeah. So somewhere around the turn of the century, we got sick of us all being a bunch of punks not knowing how to shoot stuff, and we made it a law that people had to make it easier to get people. So it's basically the shooters were a bunch of millennials, and it was too difficult to shoot, so they had to make federal laws to make it easier to go shooting and give you some encouragement. But I don't know. I don't know anybody around since then that's older than my grandparents, and they're gone. So I don't think it's possible for anybody to be around, right? Let's see, 1903. Yeah, you couldn't even, well, wait, would you have been, no, you couldn't even have been hardly born in 03 and still be alive. So
you'd be 110 years old. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, you can, I was thinking it might be the other way. You could be older and some, but no, you could,
13.
You would have had to, the best we could hope for is somebody that studied it. You know, that's an adult, but there's no way for anybody to be living that really has any experience with the 1903 anymore. But I don't know. When I try to look back at some of that stuff, it would be neat. I think of an exercise. One of the exercises I use when I'm trying to remember it all or keep it all straight is to look at what else was going on in 1903. You know, it seems like a long time ago, but you know, there's a lot of stuff happening, and puts it into perspective or whatever, like with what the wars are. I mean, that's before World War II. So we were ending the Indian wars and stuff, and like the little wars that were weird, the little weird wars that we had there before the big wars.
Yeah, I was just looking at the CMP website. I guess all those 1911s are sold out, no longer accepting orders. Never mind.
Right, but they're rationing them, so they only sold that number, and then there'll be another number at some point, and then there'll be another number, and they won't run out for like 10 years. So whatever the number was, they divided it by 10 or something. But to answer your question before, a couple of people said, like, if you consider, well, Pant said if you consider $900 and up for a 1911 reasonably priced, but I kind of do feel that's a good price. I mean, not the bargain, but it's not a ripoff. I've seen 1911s go for more than $1,000. And each real ones, I mean.
Depends on the brand and what's done to it.
Well, but I'm talking guns that people look for, guns that aren't molested, that come straight from the military. When we're talking a CMP gun from South Korea, it can't come from fewer hands, you know, between you and the military. It's going to have like the military, the CMP, and then you. I mean, you can't get it you really can't get it from the military, so I don't know if there's any way to get one that's closer to being authentic, or you know, from the source. that's got to be worth something. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, it's a freaking Colt, right? Anybody else? Or no, a bunch of other people made our 1911s, I guess. But still, it's a real military 1911 that's been sitting in South Korea. No other brand can suggest that they are anywhere near that. But I guess everybody has their own reason for buying a gun.
That's really cool, and that's kind of why I want one.
Hey, folks saying it's risky considering the age and use range. If I could go to the store and hand pick it, then maybe. Yeah, I still say there's a 300-something million people, however many millions of gun owners. They're only bringing in thousands of these guns. People are going to buy them. If they had a big crack and you could never shoot it, you'd still buy the thing. I mean, it's still a cool piece of history, military history, gun history.
Yeah,
but if I was going to do that, I'd go to Tulsa and I'd get one that was, actual war provenance, not something that was just sold to some other country.
That's a good point, but I don't know. Do you think the ones in South Korea, like, it's possible for any of those to have not seen war?
Sure, some of them didn't, but I'm sure the majority of them were carried at least.
I mean, I don't know. I figure there's three options. These are ones that they sent over there after the war and they literally never saw nothing. Just a bunch of training or like abuse, maybe, like novice people that never actually used them or thought they would ever use them, or they went through the war, or we don't know at all, right? But I don't know how we would know unless they're sending. Does anybody know? Are they sending letters of provenance or whatever that would be called with them, like where they've been, or I don't know?
No, I think they're just coming over in big crates.
I don't think the government even keeps track. That was something I was interested in being an armorer when I was in. Pursued it a little bit, like you could volunteer for stuff, so I would volunteer to hang out in armories when I could, and never remember seeing anything about like that. Like, I don't think they give a shit in the military unless it's a unique piece of equipment, nothing follows around a piece of equipment saying it was here, and then it was here, and then it was here. You just have this piece of equipment on inventory, and if it's supposed to be yours, you better have it. And if it's not supposed to be yours, you immediately forget anything about it because you got other stuff you're worried about. So I don't know if it's possible for those guns to have some sort of a paper trail other than like the last place they were was here. And maybe this was built in that factory then, and they were probably shipped to Korea here. I'm assuming they all went to Korea. I mean, I'm assuming most of those guns were built and then immediately sent to Korea, right? I don't think these are guns that went to World War II and then went to Vietnam and then eventually showed up in South Korea, right? But I don't know if we'd know that either.
I'm looking at an article here about in 2018, the National Defense Authorization Act explicitly ordered the sale of 8,000 to 10,000 1911s that were retired when they switched to the Beretta, I guess. So these are the 1911 A1 pistols. That's not the same thing. Okay, never mind. I guess, would you rather have one of those or one of the World War II ones?
I mean, if I could have any 1911 ever, I'd either have one that Browning held in his hand, or like any of them that he held in his hand, or something that went through World War I and II and Korea and Vietnam. There must be guns like that.
That would be cool.
That one that somebody was looking at the other day with pin-up grips, was that during the day or was that in an evening chat? But that one, it sounded like had gone from World War II, where they got the grips, to Korea and Vietnam. And I mean, that would be an impressive gun. I think that was a $10,000 1911.
Yeah, I was looking at really, really ridiculously expensive things that you can buy for a 1911. And fossilized mammoth tooth grips, $10,000 a set. They look cool.
Yeah, John Brown saying that 1911 A1 is a World War II gun, and I believe that's true. I believe they modified the gun.
I think that's right.
How many differences can you think of off the top of your head between a 1911 and 1911 A1?
3.
I think it's 5, or is there more?
It's the sights. It's the beaver tail. And it's the hammer's different.
Yep.
Firing
Weren't there
pin block, isn't it?
cuts on the slide that are different?
What are you talking about? Slide? Not necessarily the slide. There are cuts that are different.
Huh.
Let me find an
I
image.
think NRA, the NRA magazine, the American Rifleman, just had an article about that in the last couple of
Isn't
months.
the backstrap different on it?
Yes.
Doesn't it have some kind of like bevel around the trigger or something?
Yeah, that's where that cut behind the trigger happens. So let me get a picture up here.
Yeah, that's it. The recess at the back of the trigger.
Yep. So you got your
Guard.
1911 up top here and your A1 down below. So slides are pretty similar, but yeah, the trigger shorter, flatter on a A1. You got those little cutouts behind the trigger so your finger can get to it. Like you said, the spur safety different. Whatever you call this thing. What'd you call this, Gary?
Backstrap.
Different.
Backstrap, but mainspring housing, I guess, too.
Yeah, mainspring. Yep.
Hammer. Big and wide, right? And there are sights. But I think the easiest thing to look at is that little area behind the trigger. If it's flat and squarey, old, and when there's some cut in there, it's a little easier to get your finger in there. It's World War II, World War I, World War II. Grips are a little different too, I think. These are the wrong grips on one of these. Kind of neat. Does anybody know about this grip or this 1911 magazine here? Why it looks like that? I don't know if you can tell how it looks in the picture, but it's kind of whiter on top.
The magazine pouch? I don't know. That's just a guess.
No, it's I believe it's from hardening. They only bothered to harden the lips, so it should have. World War I or something has this. This is like a $90, $95 magazine. Like that's what the old ones looked like.
So it's been case hardened, basically. Not case hardened, but
Just they didn't bother to harden the whole thing. They probably just held it in a fire or whatever, torched at one end of it or whatever, and then just kept going. They didn't clean them up more than that. They were certainly disposable back then. You weren't reloading mags very often.
yeah, it's funny how militaries are always like, "Hey, these mags are disposable. You can throw them away." And then as soon as they start throwing them away, they're like, "Don't throw those away. That's money." Like every time. So then you end up using these magazines that are well beyond their design parameters of how long they've been used, and then causes problems. But it's not a big deal. You can usually just take the spring out of a magazine, stretch it out, put it back in, and it's usually fixed. I don't know. I haven't had too many problems with magazines being worn out like that. One or two. Usually with my AK mags, to be honest, though. But I think that's because I bought like cheap AK mags back in the day. You guys catch the Nerd Fest the other night?
What?
The Nerd Fest. We were playing D&D.
No. With the people on Friday or whatever?
Yeah, it was Saturday.
Oh, no.
Check it out, G-Webs. It was fun. You'd be into it. Man.
All right. So I'm reading the chats over here, trying to figure out what they're talking about. I don't know what they're talking about. So I will look over
So the 30-06 was a 7.62 by 63.
Okay.
the Springfield anyway, according to Wikipedia.
What significance is there to the 30 caliber that so many militaries and calibers and rifles stuck with it? Do you think it's just tradition, or they're already making they got enough of the machines that are this size, so keep fiddling with this size? Or do you think it's like some kind of golden number of bullets to the way that lead flies through the air? Is there like something about that 30 caliber that just is better than other diameters, or is it like I say, just because they happen to have so much equipment that's already 30 caliber, they just played with as much as possible so they wouldn't have to buy new manufacturing equipment?
Well, I think it says a lot that pretty much every military ever made their rifle in 7 to 8 caliber, right? Like there's 8mm Mauser, there's 7mm Swiss, and then everyone else is 7.62 basically. And that's when they were doing their bullet tests. They were like, hey, we want maximum velocity, maximum hit power, maximum distance without killing the guy shooting, right? So they kind of got to find a balance in between recoil and like bullet dynamics, and they all landed right around 7.62, 7.5 millimeters.
And I figure if you get too much bigger diameter, you're carrying around more metal for that barrel, because you're going to need more metal for the barrel because you got more powder to push that much stuff. And if you go smaller, yes, the bullets themselves get weaker and weaker and become less and less effective. So there must be something about that 30 that's just, in enough sweet spots that it's appealing for so many different platforms, calibers, and types of firearms.
Well, especially at longer ranges. I mean, you can put a lot of velocity behind a 22, but then you put it over a 700-yard range, and it loses all that velocity pretty much towards the end.
Yeah, but look at handguns. You got 22, 25, 32, and then everything from 38 all the way up to 40 almost is, well, not 40, I guess, but 357 is 30 to 762 by 30 with 762, right? So then you get 44 and up. But there's a whole bunch of calibers in the 38, 762 area.
Yeah.
Also.
But what's the most common handgun caliber?
45 ACP.
9mm.
Probably 22.
More guns are made in 9mm. More handguns are made in 9mm than in any other caliber. Period.
Well, wait a minute. Are you saying Nazi handguns or just all handguns?
I'm not going back to World War. I'm saying today.
That would say always 22. 22 wins everything because there's so many of them, 22s. But whatever, yeah, exactly. 9 is definitely the big caliber and right in the middle of the 30. What is 7.60 or something?
No, 9mm is 9mm. Bigger than 7.62.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. So Adam's saying a weight or sectional density thing?
Well, I think that with handguns, you're not trying to shoot over a 700-yard range. You're not trying to range out to 1,000 and hit someone with your 9mm handgun or your 45. So therefore, the ballistic coefficient that goes along with a 30 caliber round is not as important. What is more important is a bigger projectile, like wider. That's why the 45 is such a ubiquitous round, especially through World War II. And I think when it comes to the Nagant or the Tokarov, the 7.62 that the Russians were producing, for them, I think it was more of a ease of, we already have the tools and everything to make 30 caliber barrels, so we'll just make our pistols in 30 caliber too.
That's what I kind of figure. There's got to be something to that. Like, we've got the reloading equipment, we got all this, so you can use the same press. Now we just have to change the dies. We're not starting over from scratch with every piece of machinery.
Well, I think that was the case with Russia. I heard, what was his name? Ian from Forgotten Weapons talking about specifically that, and that was his. I don't think he had any proof or anything for it, but that was his conjecture. Was basically that the 7.62 Gokharov and Nagant were because of 7.6251, and then 7.6239 also followed because, well, we're already in 7.62.
It's probably a factor as well with when you're talking about the rounds themselves and carrying either on the individual or in the case or in the crate or in the truck, and some kind of golden ratio or something, or deadly ratio between like how many trucks you can get into a battle and how much ammo they can have and how many you need to shoot. I'm sure there's some kind of war nerds that get into all that, right? How many rounds need to get fired and for every hour of battle, and if it, this, you brought in a 50 BMG, for example, versus a 22 long rifle, there's got to be studies on that kind of stuff, and the 30 cal versus 223 or something, or the 545 must have been an issue, right? They figure for the same amount of trucks they can bring in twice as many rounds or something, and that gives their soldiers twice as many trigger pulls and therefore more potential. I don't know. It's probably one of the factors to go to 7.62 39 from 54R, one of the other giant calibers, is that that was pretty obvious. You don't need to shoot 700 yards. You don't need a bullet that can shoot that far. You can have 3 bullets that shoot half as far.
It's funny, from Pearl Harbor to BJ Day, the Industrial Ordnance Team furnished the Army with, and 43 foreign nations with, 47 billion rounds of small arms munitions. So from Pearl Harbor to BJ, 47 billion rounds were produced.
And when you said what's the next Mosin, that's why it's going to be tough, because we definitely, there's a big difference between war production of anything and regular production. And there's just the costs and stuff. Stuff for war can be so much nicer and better and stronger and cheaper because you got giant economy paying for it, not one company, is competing with others. It's like taken out of the actual capitalism for a minute, right? And they just produce, price is no object, especially in communism. They didn't give a shit about anything. They just made stuff that would work.
Well, I think the difficulty trying to pick the next Mosin is that the next Mosin has already gone the way of the Mosin. I mean, the bolt action battle rifles with full size cartridges, all, especially the ones coming in from overseas, they all became or have all become a lot more pricey. I mean, look, even the Arasakas today are not real cheap rifles to get. The Carcano is not an inexpensive rifle to buy. Certainly the real good stuff like the Swisses and all that. I mean, the K31s and the Krag Jorgensens and all of those rifles have already gone. The Mosin was like one of the last ones. I mean, the 8mm Mauser. You just don't find those laying around for $50 unless they're really screwed up.
Man, I'm searching for what stockpiles of small arms there might be around the world. And all I'm finding is U.S. Army plans to destroy obsolete U.S. stockpile. Da-da-da-da-da. Small arms survey. State stockpiles being destroyed by government. Like that shit.
Well, yeah, they don't want us to have them, so of course they're going to get rid of them.
Yeah, because all of the guns after World War II were semi-automatic or better, or automatic guns, and can't have those. I mean, I guess the M1 Garand, but all the U.S. guns, it seems like, tend to be more expensive. I don't know if it's just because people covet them more because it's nostalgic to have what Grandpa used to fight with in World War II or whatever, you know. And that makes sense. It does, but
Yeah, I'm waiting for him to find that cache of transferable grease guns in Thompson so that we can all, afford to buy those. Go get our stamps.
That kind of stuff either got worn out, from what I understand, left behind, destroyed, parts swapped out of it, or absorbed into units that sort of put it in the back shelf in case they ever need it again, because it's a valid working platform that takes like nothing to just sit on a shelf. But springs and stuff have probably died over the years. But I from what I understand, there's not a lot of those surplus because, well, I mean, there was probably a lot surplus, but there's a lot of those that got kept in units, I guess is what I'm saying. And even if it's old as hell, they just keep it and call it, old weapons familiarization training material or something. They just have no need to get rid of it. So Ghost is saying, even though he has a link and he's not joining for some reason, 762 by 51, we kind of talked about that. So that's 308. Although we'll be talking about 308 in a few days when it's March 8th, which will be 308 day. So is anyone planning on already? I mean, you could have bought something for episode 762, but it's more of a Daily Gun Show anniversary. March 8th is international in some respects, depending on if they use our clock or our calendar, I guess. March, third month, 8th day, 308 day. So we'll go left, right, and see what guns these guys are buying. Psycho, what gun are you buying on 308 day?
Well, I thought 308 day was 38 day. And I don't have to buy a gun now because I just won one the other day.
So you're saying you think it's March 8th, 38, not 308?
Yeah, it's 38. It's not otherwise it'd be 0308, I guess, if you forced both digits.
how in the hell did you win a gun?
So then, he won a gun on Instagram. Well, he showed it on Instagram. I guess you wanted it at your local
CCDL, yeah. That Second Amendment group that I support.
Mm-hmm.
I went to their anniversary dinner and ended up winning a really cool AR like thing. It's actually an other because we can't have nice things.
What state are you in?
What does that mean, other?
It was specially designed to circumvent the 2013 assault weapon ban.
You mean
so it has a barrel? I'm sorry?
You mean comply with their crazy regulations?
Yes, it was designed to meet the letter of the law, not the spirit.
Well, the spirit of the law is the infringement of our rights. So
right, yeah, exactly.
But whatever. Anyway, so what's the characteristics of it? What makes it cool?
So it's a semi-automatic 223 lower receiver that's never been classified as either a pistol or a rifle, and it has a barrel longer than 10 inches, so it's not a pistol according to Connecticut law, and it's not designed to be fired from the shoulder because it has a brace, not a rear stock. So it's not a rifle. And of course, it's not a shotgun because it's got a rifle barrel. So it's neither fish nor fowl. It doesn't fit the rifle definition, the handgun definition, or the shotgun definition. So as a result, it becomes an other weapon. And because it's an other weapon, it's not because the way the law is written, it says pistols that are like this are assault weapons and rifles that are like that are assault weapons. But since it's an other, you can do anything you want with it and put any kind of evil features on it you want because it's neither fish nor fowl.
What state are you in?
Connecticut, of course.
Connecticut. East Coast.
Yes.
Man, do you guys have any good states out there when it comes to guns?
Vermont and New Hampshire. And Vermont took a beating the other. Yeah. What can I say? But still pretty good. But yeah, we're paying the ass.
We're however many years into the country, and Vermont never had a gun law until like last year, ever. So they could carry constitutionally since the beginning of the fucking Constitution. That's pretty good. And that's right in the middle of all that. What, you just say Maine was pretty good? Was pretty good?
New Hampshire was the other one I was thinking of.
Okay. Maine got whaled on from Massachusetts, from what I understand, right?
Yeah.
So Maine got killed from Massachusetts the same way that like Oregon and Washington are getting killed by California, and Nevada's getting killed by California, and Arizona's about to get killed by California.
Well, Vermont and New Hampshire border directly on Massachusetts, and Maine got buffered by New Hampshire a little bit, but it didn't help them.
Well, yeah, I saw it was either chatting with you or somebody who was telling us that when we were looking at a map one night that pretty much everybody in Maine moved out of, or it's like their winter homes for the people in Massachusetts. Like it's cool to move up to Maine or something. It was cheap and it was like a new place to go be rich or whatever.
Yeah, but just like California screwed up Oregon, now it's same deal.
California's spread out because it's so screwed up that they're going to screw everywhere up.
So you go left to right, 7.62 day. You're going to stock up with 1,000 rounds. You're getting 1,000 rounds or $1,000 worth. That's 1,000 rounds. Who cares how much it costs? 1,000 rounds worth of ammo in the 7.62 caliber. What are you getting, Cycle?
Oh, geez. I'd probably get some 6239 from ISKS.
Okay. Honda?
I'd probably spend half of it on 39 for the AK, and then I would spend a quarter of it on 51, like 308, and then I'd spend the other half on like high precision 308.
Okay. Gary, what are you doing? 1,000 rounds.
Well, I don't have any guns that are really chambered in that, so I don't know what I'd do with it. I guess I'd buy some to give away.
Wait, buy some guns? You're getting the ammo for nothing.
Right, but I don't have anything in 7.62 per se.
Does 300 blackout count?
Yeah.
There you go. Get yourself a 300 upper, man.
Hey, yeah, you'd force me to go out and buy a rifle is what you'd do, which I guess would be the worst thing in the world. So,
not a whole rifle, just an upper.
Yeah, that'll work. Okay.
Just borrow your friend's gun. Oh, wait, if HR 8 passes, then that's illegal.
Not if it's just the upper.
That's true.
So here's the thing. Most of the 29 people that are watching have links over on gun channels. They just chose not to exercise them, and they just lost 1,000 rounds of ammo. So there you go. There's consequences to your actions. So we keep moving on. 7.62 by 39 or 7.62. What else are we going to talk about? Anything else to talk about with it? Anything? Bueller? It's over. Let's see. We got a couple other things we can talk about. Yesterday was it yesterday? The other day, at least, was the Coast Guard Reserves anniversary or birthday, however you want to look at it. So, Coast Guard Reserves. Brandon, one of the people at Sports Gun Channels, is a Coast Guard Reserve officer, I believe. So, I don't know what they say on the Coast Guard. Does anybody know what their cheer is, like hoorah or whatever? It's probably some Navy-ish thing, I would imagine, some maritime type of thing.
Semper Paratus is the motto. Yeah, always prepared. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we'll say with that then to our Coast Guard friends and protectors, because they keep our shores safe. And the reserve is, I'm assuming, the youngins getting ready to go in, the people that have already been in and are keeping their contracts fresh or whatever the reasons they're sticking in, or their skills available to the country, and then of course people that are on callback, can come back and reuse their skills if necessary. So today is Gatling's, the anniversary of Gatling's death in 1903. So he lived from 1818 to 1903. He's the guy that invented the Gatling gun. What do you think it'd have been like to be alive since 1818 to 1903? Would you go back to 1818 to 1903 with the knowledge you have today, but no money? Yes or no? And you'd have to live your whole life. You'd have to be a kid in 1818, and you wouldn't go back to 1818 as an adult or anything. Cycle.
Yeah, but you'd still know what you know today.
Somehow you know what you know. Like it would become revealed to you, so you wouldn't all have it as a baby, and you wouldn't be some kind of weirdo. But as soon as you became old enough, you'd get like a boom, and you'd get like a lightning bolt, and you'd be like, "Oh snap! I'm living this life in 1818, or maybe 1820." By the time you got that.
No, I wouldn't do that. I'd go to the early 1900s. There were too many mechanical processes and stuff that hadn't been developed in the early 1800s to make it worthwhile. You'd be so frustrated because you couldn't build nothing that you could build today.
And you could die so easily, I would imagine. But what?
The state of medicine sucked. I mean, shit, they didn't even have the germ theory of medicine at that time, right?
I don't think so. This is olden days. Honda, you going back to 1818 through 1903 to live?
I mean, that's an interesting concept because you could go back to then and give them at least like a rudimentary understanding, which is basically what I would assume any one of us has about a multitude of things. Like, I can't build a car. I can't like go mine ingredients and machine them and make an engine, but I can tell you how it works. Maybe someone can figure it out. So maybe if you did that, you'd put the whole world like 50 to 100 years ahead. So yeah, sure. Why not? Let's change the world.
That's the thing. You could go back with what you know today and definitely change things up. So maybe speed things up from what it would have normally happened. But you wouldn't have not got started anywhere near as early in 1818. It's definitely before the Industrial Revolution even. Gary, going back to 1818, 1903?
Well, it'd definitely be scary for the reasons you mentioned, lack of medicine and stuff like that. But it would be interesting just because I'm kind of a genealogist and kind of being a history buff kind of goes with that. So to see what, conditions were like when my ancestors come over to this country, that'd be kind of neat. But yeah, I'd miss, I'd be waiting another 100 years for the internet, so I'd miss out on that and stuff.
Yeah, it's true. That is when my great-grandparents moved to America. It was early 1900s.
1870s is when mine came over. So.
Oh, shit, I never thought about what years it was. Yeah, that's interesting. Going back to 1818. I think I'd have to think about it more because I'd have to know what's going on during those years. I wouldn't want to go back so far that it would be boring, like you're saying. I would want to have something interesting to do. And if you couldn't even like get somewhere, even if you could go back and Highlander it, become super rich, with this insight, figure out stuff, invest in the right things or something. Some of those investments are going to take a while just because the general nature of a bunch of stuff and like pretty much the way it could have gone. Doesn't mean you're going to be rich tomorrow. You could maybe get rich, but it's going to take some time, right? So even if you got rich, it would still take you half your life to get around the world or something. Like that's not necessarily freedom. You would think going back to the past as all the insight of the future.
But you know where to invest your money, so you could get rich pretty quick because you know what was going to be invented. So,
do you really know where to invest your money in 2005? I wouldn't have any fucking clue. Like go back to like 1980, yeah, totally, or even 1960, sure. But you go too far back, I don't know.
You'd have to avoid the Great Depression somehow, yeah.
Well, I mean, and it all comes down. You gotta have money to make money in that kind of environment. Where are you getting all this money you're going to invest? With making your nickel a week, at hard labor on the farm or whatever.
Help build the railroads and stuff like that. I don't know.
I think something like a hula hoop or a frisbee or a BB gun, a slingshot. Like you could come up with something pretty quick and make a couple of bucks, I bet. Or do something like go up to somebody who knows what they're doing and say, hey, mix some carbon in with that steel or whatever, and it's going to be harder. Or I don't know, you come up with something that somebody says, oh man, you're a genius, here's a couple of bucks, get started or something. Or maybe not. I That'd be interesting. So I just do
Your
that.
competition kills you off. Yeah, great.
That's true.
Process.
Definitely. That back in those days, it wasn't like there was CSI. It was like that guy hadn't been around here in a while. That was CSI.
Well, there was a great book. If you're a fantasy and science fiction reader, there was a great book called Lest Darkness Fall, and it's about a guy who goes back into the Roman times to try to lift up the level of technology to avoid some of the problems that came it's a bad things have happened in our future, and he drops back there to try to stop that from happening by bringing technology back. And the crap that poor guy had to put up with was hilarious. So it was a really good book. I think Harry Harrison wrote it, but it was pretty good stuff. Less Darkness Fall, if you ever get a chance. It's an old book. It was written, I think, in the 30s, but pretty good stuff.
Well, it's also interesting too. Like I was looking into why aren't there a whole bunch of really, really old guns? And part of the reason, besides age and losing them and stuff like that, is that the cost of the materials to make the gun was so high that making an improvement to it when a new technology came out was more cost effective than building a new gun. And so a lot of the guns were repurposed and then repurposed again and then remade again, and no longer resembled the original gun that it was. I don't know, just just thinking about the price of materials now versus then, it used to be a lot more expensive to get steel than it is now.
So try to say and sell Colt his own idea before he designs it. That might have been interesting. If you were born in 1818, he invented the revolver in like 30 something, so you could get older. You could get old and invent it before Colt. Colt didn't even invent it when he was young. He invented it older. Right? So I don't know. So it's a little bit too early. I agree with Cycle. I'd want it to be later, because then even like I want to hang out with Bannerman. He made a bunch of money by going and inventing military surplus reselling.
Yeah, how cool would that be to go visit Bannerman's at its height?
Yeah, except be as wealthy as Bannerman, so that you didn't hang out at his castle as a visitor, but as like his friend, and you can hang out at his castle shooting cannons with him and shit, or buy half his shit or something.
That would be cool.
Or buy half the shit that he was about to buy at the prices he was going to buy it at. But he had the opportunity. He was born in he was born around the same time frame, except you died same time as him, early 1900s, which would be no fun. He'd be old by the time he was old. But when he really started making money, he would go to Africa and arm all the, I guess, tribes or fucking warlords, wherever the hell they were in Africa, fighting each other, armies. So that would have been an interesting time to be traveling around. When did cars start? Pretty much 1900s-ish?
Early 1900s, yeah.
So you'd be driving around in cars already, except they'd be them old, probably fairly unreliable cars, I would think. But I don't know.
Yeah, the first cars were actually electric.
I mean, we hear about
the roads were practically non-existent. So.
Yeah, cars, like, it wasn't exactly like what we're familiar with, jumping in a car and just driving around carefree. I'm sure cars were like kind of cool, but they probably broke all the damn time.
Yeah,
I really
did.
Well, and they scared horses too, so people hated them at first.
Well, they had to be somewhat reliable though, otherwise people wouldn't have bought them.
Well, people were buying them because they were like the cool new thing, and it's like buying fancy TV or something. But yeah, I guess they would have to work, otherwise it'd be in the norm with it.
I mean, I don't think anyone was trying to get 100,000 miles out of their 1903 buggy that maybe would work for 2 years before it broke completely. But then again, I don't know. I wasn't there.
So we're going to transition now into Gun of the Day. So we're going all over the place. And today it is this weird SIG that's clear. I think they were selling, I think this was at, is this at the, I think it's whoever this laser company was, because they were showing how this laser is integrated into the SIG, frame or whatever. and you could see the ribbons go into where the batteries, I guess, are in the little gap behind the. Is that the battery back there? Back here behind the mag well, and then this is the laser module up here, and then you got your switch underneath the trigger guard. Anyway, I thought it was cool. I'd like to have a clear frame. I guess clear doesn't work good, as far as plastic being strong enough. But I think it's a neat picture. Is anybody a fan of these SIGs?
Looks like an airsoft gun. I had an airsoft gun that looked a lot like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, airsoft can be clear. This is a real gun. I mean, it's a real. This is the gun on this SIG.
I mean, it's cool. I don't know how much they go for, or I guess they're not.
No, it's just a demo for the lasers, not a gun. I mean, it's not a working frame. I don't think it's just. I'm not familiar with any clear frames. Like I say, they're not strong enough. It's just resin. When they make them, they put all kinds of like fiber in there, I imagine, with the resin so that it's stronger. Right? It's got more material, or stronger material.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. That's cool.
Of course, we just talked about Gatling being dead, so that's our history thing today. And then I don't know if Dad's still out there or not. He said he was at his parents' house, so he wasn't joining in today. But he was asking earlier about the HR 8 and HR 1112. So if he didn't hear, today in the house, they went to the main floor and they were combined into HR 215? I think it's 215. So they did a couple of votes today. One was to combine the two into one. The second vote was to basically say there's going to be no more amendments to it. And we think they're going to be voting on it tomorrow on the whole house, we think. So I guess we'll find out for sure tomorrow. Kind of happened quickly. Ghost just texted me kind of midday today and said, hey, they're going live. And they were live right then. So I just went live and we chatted about that earlier. So I don't know if Dano's still out there, but that's the update for him. Go ahead.
G-Webs, it was HR 8 and HR what? And they turned into HR what again? I'm sorry?
So there was HR 8, and that was universal background checks, changing federal law to require background checks for all transfer of firearms for anyone. Right. And then HR 1112, so 3 ones and then the number 2, was changing the NICS process from 3 days to 10 days. So they've engineered a new loophole. They call it the Charleston loophole, and they suggest that they claim 3 million people since 1994 have been denied, and somehow that has deterred them from ever being a criminal. So by being denied from purchasing from an FFL once, they've changed from a life of crime to be peaceful citizens, and that's why they justify the change from 3 days to 10 days time for the FBI to run background checks.
That's like if you get delayed, they have 3 days, but now they're going to have 10.
Correct. They have 3 business days to do research and then contact the store to not deny you or proceed you. And now they're going to change that to 10. And they would say that there's no difference there. Of course, they don't know what the consequences are, and they don't see it as just further opportunity for the bureaucracy. And unfortunately, they didn't get much resistance to that one. But anyway, there were 2 different bills sponsored by different people. And I don't know why, if it's normal procedure or not, but they combined them. And I think the new one is called HR 215. Somebody correct me, or it's HR 145. Thanks, Tread. It's HR 145. So for whatever reason, they combined the 2 into that one. And I think they're going to be voting on it tomorrow. So if you go over to FPC, I'll drop the link right now, Firearms Policy Coalition. It's one of the big organizations that has the boilerplate or like prepared emails to send to your representatives. And if you go to their website and click on the Take Action tab at the very top, I'm going to post the link right now. Then you can find HR 8 and HR 1112 are both still in there as individuals, since it was just hours ago that they were combined. And you can send opposition to HR 1112 to your representatives through their website. I guess I could screen capture what I'm doing right now. You can go to HR 1112 and voice your opposition to that with this link, and then HR 8 is right below it. Again, you can voice your opposition to that one to your representatives. And it's actually, when you click on it, it's going to send it. I've already sent it, so I don't know if it's going to let me. I guess it will. It's going to send it to actually all the representatives involved. So there's like 232 or something that sponsored HR 8. It's going to send your email to all of them. And I'm sure lots of people are going to consider that fruitless or whatever, but it's something that you can do tonight while you're watching this. Free.
So what are you guys' thoughts on HR 8 being used as a way to basically keep tabs on everyone's gun and where it's at, and then use that information somewhere down the road for confiscation?
It's reach, because it's not really designed for that. It's designed to prohibit anybody who's fairly interested or remotely, or like, I guess what's the word, like just casually interested in firearms. Given them such a laborious and costly and restrictive process that they don't enter into the the area of interest. As far as it being a step towards that, I mean, they don't care that it's a step towards that for sure, but realistically, because of I think it's the 76 Privacy Act, nothing can be put electronically, and there's laws in place that the government can't keep lists of its citizens. They can't keep lists like the Nazis kept of people that are good and people that are bad. So those things keep it difficult for the government to use the 4473 in that way. I mean, anybody can come to their own conclusions, I guess, based on their experience, what they believe the government or the bureaucracy is capable of.
Here's a thought that I just had while you were talking about that is, think about how the Freedom of Information Act works, right? So like anytime that the government produces a document, they're supposed to keep it forever. And if you, a citizen, want to know what's going on with the government, you can write the government a letter and say, hey, I want all information pertaining to X. And then they have to send you all information pertaining to X. However, the way they've been getting around this recently is by using private companies they broker private companies to provide them with information. And then when they call up a piece of information, like, hey, we want all of the information on G-Webs, and they pull it all up, then it can be accessed because it's entered their archives. But until it does, it's just on archive in a non-governmental organization. Hence, they're not really keeping it's like a loophole on their side. I think they're probably doing that with guns. I mean, they've already got information on everybody, where you go, who you talk to, who you know, what you care about, what you listen to, what music you like, what kind of car you drive, where you live, where you work, what you spend money on, your credit card bills, your email, your phone calls. Everything is listened to. If they want to know, they fucking know.
All right, well, if you wanted to know everything about a particular ant in your yard, right, you'd have the power, since you own your yard and you probably own everything that ant could ever walk to. You have the potential to know everything about that ant. You could buy a bunch of cameras and you could keep tabs on that ant, put a little piece of white paint on him, he wouldn't care. Now you can follow him around for his entire life. Are you going to? Is there a reason to? So I guess you're not incorrect, but until the government has, I guess, quantum brains that can navigate and understand all that data, and then, like a spider, run through it and find what a human with finite capabilities is able to request from that data. Having all that data is, again, the equivalent of being able to keep track of every ant in your yard. You might have the capability to do it, but it doesn't mean you have the facilities to do it. Does that make sense? I don't know if I used the best analogy there, but you're right. And that's the problem. As soon as they get quantum brains, then Then we have Skynet, and everybody makes fun of that concept, but you better know how to shoot robots because.
No, it's fucking true, dude. Listen to Elon Musk. Like, the singularity is coming. They're working on that technology right now. We're about to become useless. Like, there's going to be computer brains that can think 10,000 times better than we can, right? That can design things instantly. That can do things we can't even imagine. Like, our little piddly brains, our little piddly arms and legs are going to become basically ants in the backyard that no one cares about. What do you do when you find an ant pile in your backyard? Pour gasoline on it and you light it on fire. And no one cries when you do it.
Or you let it live there because it doesn't bother you and it's not caring and might have some interest in watching them do their thing. So it's not always nefarious, and they're not also affecting you. So there's no reason for you to go out and kill them unless you're doing something to bug them, or they're doing something to bug you, I guess.
Well, and I think that's where the real issue lies is that so once you break your head above water, and once you come to the attention of government, now they have all of these pools of information on you, so they can really put you over a barrel pretty easily, because while they may not know enough about you to extract the fact that you're a not a nice person, once they decide that they want to come after you, they've got a huge amount of information to go through to come after you with. And
Right.
That's, I think, the scary part of it.
They know more about us than we can remember about ourselves in some cases. Depending on your digital footprint, depending on how much time you spend online, which for most of us is a lot, they know. I mean, they have algorithms. They can tell which way you're going to vote before you even vote. In a lot of cases, they can tell what product you're going to buy next. So they give you advertisements sometimes before you even search for it. It's crazy, and it's only getting more refined. And yeah, Skynet is coming, man. Call it whatever you want, but benevolent or malevolent, either way, it's going to affect us in ways that we don't yet understand.
So Tread's saying it's H resolution 145. Thanks. So there you go. We went all kinds of the places today. Do we have a gun shop? Since Honda, you're new, what's a gun shop for today? The reason is we do the show live or every day, so we can feature a new gun shop every day, ideally.
The gun shop I use is called Triple J Armory. They're in Littleton, Colorado. My favorite online gun shop that no one ever hears about is Lambo's Armory. They're in Texas. They got a pretty good selection of stuff and good prices. But Triple J, there you go.
All right. So what's so good about this Triple J? For one, they have a bunch of pictures of spent brass, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what's up about that. What's cool about them is they are actually in the process of building their own shooting range. So there'll be a gun store with a shooting range built in. And you can, they keep talking about it like they have it, but the last time I was there, they don't.
They're anticipating to open in February 19.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was in there like a month ago. They still didn't have it, but I'm totally going to be there probably once a week, at least once they do. I mean, I like going to the mountains. I'm in Colorado. There's tons of places you can go shooting in Colorado that you don't have to pay for, but it's nice to have somewhere, if it's snowing and crap, where you don't have to go four-wheeling through the mountains to find a range,
Looks like $200 to get in, and then it's $30 a month, or $450 a year, or $4,500, $4,600, and that's a lifetime.
I don't know.
I wonder how they do lifetimes. That's got to be some crazy math. I can't even imagine how they come up with the lifetime membership idea.
I've been going to these guys since they were run out of the owner's garage. So.
Is there a map on here?
I don't know. Here, I can show you where it's at.
No, I don't think I went there. I think I went to one up here. When you said it was in a guy's house, that made me think it was one I went to, but I don't think I went there. I think I went over here maybe.
Have you ever checked out Machine Gun Tours in Denver? That one's pretty cool.
Machine Gun Tours?
Yeah, they've got.
I think I've heard of that.
They've got Hummers with. I don't know what they are, like a mod deuce on top, and they take you up driving on this land that they own up in the mountains, and you go shoot a machine gun. And I don't know, it's a lot of money, so I've never done it before, but I've heard it's really cool.
Oh, they have a $30,000 Colt Gatling gun. It looks like.
Yeah. Speak of the devil.
I think somebody suggested that I go there, but it was closed or something when I was there. I got there on a Sunday evening after going to Dragon Man's in the morning, hung out with Chris, and then was headed east to eventually Illinois, but was going to the Hornady factory in Nebraska. Yeah. So I headed out as opposed to waiting and waking up in Denver and going to some shops before I headed out. Figured that would get me to Nebraska like in the afternoon, and their tours were in the mornings. So anyway, I decided to leave Denver kind of in the middle of the night. I was also awake in the middle of the night, so I didn't stay to. I want to go back to Denver though. There's a big gun show there that I'd like to check out. So I figured that's an excuse to get up there and hang out.
Hey man, if you do end up coming to Denver for a gun show, man, hit me up. I'll take a day off of work and I'll hang out with you.
Right on. This bar is pretty cool. Well as that little Thompson. So either that Thompson is an NFA or it's fake. It's got a little direct barrel on it, which is kind of neat. What do you think about these chunks? This is a fake chunk of a airplane, I'm assuming. What do you think of these like fake chunks of airplane as art?
I think it's cool as shit. I don't care if it is fake. I kind of like that like World War II kind of art that they would put on the side of planes, you know, like the shark teeth and the hot chick with the, you know, hot chick for back then anyway.
Yeah,
still hot.
Pretty good pictures of the place. Lots of stuff around. Looks like a pretty neat place. And there it is in the corner or the end of the thing. And it was also taken in 2017. I'm guessing somewhere around June.
Yeah, I actually randomly stumbled into this place. I was doing sales for a little while, and I had to like go from small business to small business selling them internet. And I was like, ooh, a gun store. And I walked in and I had no idea that it was going to be that fucking cool, man.
And then, so Denver is kind of here behind all this building.
Well, if you look down the road where you were just looking, you're looking west. Denver is basically behind you.
This is east, isn't it?
No, that's west. See?
Okay, so Denver's up here.
Yeah,
Way over here.
It was basically just east of where you were, yeah. Because you were over here in like Wheat Ridge or...
Oh, I'm thinking this is Denver. Denver's way down here. Okay.
Yeah, Commerce City's dirty Denver. I'm over there. I'm down there in Centennial, Littleton area.
Well, that's closer to Colorado Springs, and then that's closer to Dragon Man out here somewhere, which is the best place to go ever.
I haven't ever been there before.
Oh my goodness.
I've heard of it. What does going to Dragon Man's entail?
Well, you drive in and you can see how big his place is. I think it's all of this. If it's not all of this also, it could be. Actually, it probably is all of this, right? Anyway, so you drive up, and this is his dirt bike tracks over here. So how big his dirt bike tracks are. And then all of that. And then you got all this. This is all his paintball fields. So see all this paintball? Shit ton of paintball. This is all of his shooting ranges. So these are all the places you can go shooting ranges. And then this is his gun shop. That little white part basically is his gun shop. This is his motorcycle shop. And then this is his museum. Dude. All of this shit. And that's every Sunday you can go in there and take a 2-hour tour through his best museum in the country, basically.
All right. You know what I'm going to do next Sunday?
It doesn't open till March 31st.
You know what I'm doing March 31st?
I think it's March 31st. Yeah. It's normally April 1st. I think this year it's March 31st because that's like the Sunday or whatever. I'm debating, is it worth going the first Sunday? Do you think it's like super crowded? He also expanded it this year. Or is it worth going like a couple of weekends in so that you don't have to go fight the crowds of people that like to go see Dragon Man's awesome museum?
Dude, once again,
camp, would you go first opening day or would you go a couple weeks later?
I don't know. I don't mind crowds of people so much as long as there's not like a huge line everywhere you go.
Nah, I'd wait a couple weeks.
Oh, I think there's going to be a huge line. I mean, I don't know if there's... Actually, I probably do at some point cut it off. Like, nope, too many people. Like, you're going to have to come back tomorrow. Or, like, we'll do the next... Maybe they'll do more than one tour that day. That could be what it is.
Well, once again...
all you need is 10 people, and he'll do a personal tour. So we just need to arrange a Gun Channels trip where we fly into Albuquerque, and we hang out at BMC Tactical, and then drive up to... what's her name? Tina's shooting range in Santa Fe, and then head up to the Red Dawn Rocks, and then go around to the Red Dawn shooting locations or filming locations, and then hang out there a bit, and then go north to the Whittingham Center, whatever it's called, and hang out there for a bit. Then go up to, whatever that date turns out to be. Maybe everybody shows up on Thursday or Friday, drive up through New Mexico, and eventually everybody shows up at the NRA range on like Saturday, and we shoot all day Saturday, hang out overnight or whatever, and then go up to, I guess we would have to leave really early on, it's like a 2-hour, 3-hour drive to Dragon Man. So anyway, try to get up to Dragon Man's and then take the tour. Or actually, if we were going up, like it's the whole point, going up by ourselves, we could get a tour for ourselves. So we would go up there whenever we want. Drive up to Red Dawn, drive up to Whittingham Center, drive up to Dragon Man's, and then I guess fly out of Denver, right? But like you're saying, there's things to do in Denver.
Cody, Wyoming.
I don't think anybody's going to go to Cody after that.
That's true.
That's a long drive. And Cody kind of sucks. I mean, Cody's cool, but yeah, that's a long drive. Most people, I think.
That's not too bad from Denver, but if you're already coming in from New Mexico, then yeah, totally, that's a really long drive.
Oh, dude, how long is that to Cody from Denver? 10 hours?
I'd have to look it up. It's been a long time.
It's a long time. I bet you that's a long drive. I think it's 8 hours from Salt Lake City to there or more. I guess I could tell you right now.
7 hours, 41 minutes.
Oh, well, that's as bad as I thought.
Well, I know, like, getting to Wyoming is like a 4-hour drive from Denver. It's really not that far. But then, depending on where you're going in Wyoming, I guess, yeah.
It can't take 4 hours to get to Wyoming from Denver.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then there's no way it takes 7 to get to Cody. Cody's on the other side of Wyoming from Denver.
Well, I'm thinking, like, I'm leaving at 4 o'clock. Like, every time I do it, it's in the afternoon, man. So there's Denver traffic to deal with. So getting out of Denver is, like, half the battle. But then once you get north of Denver towards Boulder, like that general area of I-25, it clears up, and you drive pretty quick after that. But getting through Denver sucks.
Yeah, I've only ever driven through Denver, like I say, on a Sunday at night. All right, well, Cycle's taken off, and we're definitely not talking about 762 anymore. So let's see what's going on with the chat out here. Oops, I'm looking at the wrong chat. Dano says, go to Tulsa, not before. Go after Tulsa, not before. What does that mean? Oh, Dano is saying go to Dragon Man after Tulsa, not before. I don't know what he's saying.
What's the deal with Tulsa? Like, what days are you guys going to be there? I was thinking about flying out for it.
It'll be the first weekend in April, so it's the 5th, 6th, and 7th, I think, or yeah, 5th, 6th, and 7th, something like that.
Yeah, I was looking at plane tickets and everything. It really wouldn't be that much money.
Is there a Tulsa, Colorado? Is that like that's not too far, I suppose. That's probably a little commuter flight.
Yeah, it's like $100 and something round trip.
There's an email going around that has the hotel info. If you're serious, I can send you that email, and then you can look in and see what kind of rates there still are, and then or check out. I don't know if they're going to be doing another Tulsa chat, or if they've already planned one or not. I should say. I'm sure we'll do one, but in any case, I think at this point we're going to wrap it up. So we've been going for a little bit longer than an hour. Try to have a conversation about guns each night, and tonight went a little bit sloppier because we been kind of getting burnt out on all the awareness of HR 8 and HR 1112 and some of the other stuff that's been going on out there, and the frustrations and the fun of being eternally vigilant to pay the price for liberty, which is what we try to do.